It really.
Okay, here we are. We got our fancy owl. Hi, owl. This is our hybrid technology that helps us to meet online and in person. So we're excited about that. Welcome here, and whoever's watching online later, welcome to this virtual space. I am Liberty Gonzalez. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm one of the 3 co-owners here at Connect Community Center for Wellbeing. We started Connect because we recognize that self-care and spa culture is not sufficient to create well-being, that well-being is actually a collective endeavor. It's something that happens within the individual and the community. And so we wanted to create a space where we could explore those things in different containers for different needs for different people. And just last month, the Surgeon General of the United States released a report that outlined what they're calling a crisis of connection, or a public health crisis of isolation and separation. So the idea being, in the research showing that a lack of connection or isolation has comorbidities with all sorts of other factors, and health and mental health issues. So when people are more disconnected, the possibility of getting sick and being unwell goes up. And so part of what we're doing here at Connect is creating spaces where we can kind of counteract that and get connected, so to speak. So one of the things that I do here as one of the co-owners, I'm a coach and a consultant, and I also facilitate various groups, group activities like ecstatic dance, and I do a yin yoga class, ways to connect to the self and to each other. So the purpose of this evening is an info session for an upcoming group coaching cohort called the Liberatory Care Winter Cohort. And what I will do is I'll share a little bit about my background as a facilitator and a coach, what this group is about, what to expect, who it's for, the benefits and the registration process. And then we can move into kind of like why you're here, any questions that you might have, and yeah, and we'll go from there. So I'll get started with a little bit of my background, what brought me to do this work. Liberatory care, as you might guess, is not kind of like your mainstream work. It's I started out in the eco-village movement and doing activism around anti-capitalism in the Occupy movement. Prior to that, I was involved in outdoor schools and actually was working to be a veterinarian when I realized that animals really depend on humans getting our shit together for them to live well and have an environment to thrive in. So I moved into that anti-capitalism and decolonization work, which took me to Pacifica Graduate Institute, where I am still working on a dissertation from a decolonial perspective in community psychology. So it's liberatory community psychology. How do we get free together is sort of the underlying question. And within that, what are the things that keep us from accessing liberation? And I through that work, have worked in various channels, anti-racism organizing, reparations organizing, and currently I'm working in the realm of queer liberation on my dissertation, focused in liberatory care among gender non-conforming parents, of which I consider myself. So as a coach, I've developed my my understanding, my methodology along the way through all of these practices, and honestly, a lot of indigenous wisdom, which was a huge focus of my my schooling, my program, and many marginalized voices that have spoken to what is liberation, what is oppression, how it shows up in our lives, how it shows up in our psyches and our bodies. So I bring all of that into the room, and with the recognition that I'm a queer, white, pagan Jew of predominantly European descent. So I come with my own biases, and I bring as much of that awareness into the room as I can, with a healthy dose of humility and compassion all around. So I'd say that's like one of my core values in the coaching space is allowing people to be who they are, bring their full, their identities, their cultures, their ancestors into the room, and with that ample helping of compassion when we inevitably bring our messy humanity along with it. So then what is my core coaching methodology? Like that's a bunch of words. What does it mean? So I'm gonna bring your attention over here. Owl, follow me. Sometimes the owl has a hard time. It needs a little like, okay. Okay, so my core coaching methodology is rooted in natural wisdom. So it's rooted in the assumption that we are a part of nature, that we are nature, and that we are inherently creative beings, that we are co-creating with our bodies and the universe and the world around us at all times. And that includes co-creative relationships to our friends and family, to our colleagues, to the non-human and beyond human world, with our spirits, guides, and our ancestors, perhaps. So all of that wisdom, I consider, good data. If you have that, insights coming from those relationships and those places, I validate that. So that is an important part of my core coaching methodology, I guess the assumptions underlying. Now I'm going to show you an image. This is an activity that I am going to facilitate in the other group, the Rooted Vision Cultivator. So this is a way to visualize a creative cycle, and how we as creative beings come to be rooted in our values and our cultural assumptions, our biases and whatnot, and create our lives from that place. So I'll explain a little bit here. So I have come to work closely with the tree as a metaphor and a teaching tool. I acknowledge tree medicine as an important way that I have come to know the creative process. So in this methodology, we have the seed here. The seed is that kernel of wisdom that we're all born with. It is a concentrated DNA that has the encoded information that the tree needs to create an entire life cycle. So the assumption here, if we're using this metaphor in the human realm, is that you have the wisdom that you need within you, and within your within your community to do what you need to do. When the seed is activated, the seed puts out roots. The roots are what ground the seed to its community, to its life force, where it derives nutrients and water and stability. So in this metaphor, our roots are our values, that which binds us to life. So in this activity, we connect to our rooted values, and with that, the root is embedded in soil, right? So what would we find in the soil? We would find the nutrients that feeds this being, the minerals and the water. So in this activity, we do a variety of things to connect with what is in our creative soils. From there, we go on a journey to discover here what are the knowledge, the skills, the roles, the modes that we have learned to embody in our work, and the branches being the different ways that we can reach out into the world to affect change, or to share this knowledge, this wisdom. And then of course the fruits are that the impacts of our work, be that material, monetary, or emotions, experiences, new relationships, new insights. So this process is an activity that the rooted vision cultivator will go through to get connected to your values and the work that you want to do in the world from that place of rootedness in your values. Now, this I would consider like the yang expression of the coaching methodology. So if there were a yin and a yang, this is sort of the active approach. What do I stand for? What do I believe in? What roots me to life? And from that place, how do I go out into the world and express myself and create change and make an impact from that place? The Liberatory Care Winter Cohort is sort of the yin side of this. So in the winter, I like to focus on the regenerative and that which replenishes the roots. So by and large, the Liberatory Care Winter Cohort is going to stay pretty much down here in the roots. Understanding what is down here, what roots me to life, what nourishes me, what keeps me standing and connected to life. Okay, so in that group, we will be doing a different activity. And you can kind of see this on the camera. This is the image if you were to crawl under that tree and look up and you see these roots spread out. You can get a view of the roots, and this is a very organic activity, so it's a creative exercise, right? There isn't like a right or wrong way to do this, but we get a view of our different rooted values and perhaps where they're at. And so the artistic process and the creative process gives us a little bit of malleability in feeling into our rooted values and how we maybe are expressing them or not expressing them, or for example, this root here. Come down here, camera. The camera is like almost showing us, but not quite. I'm gonna move this up. There we go. So this root here, for example, let's say my rooted value here is compassion. Okay, this is really important to me. This is one of my most sacred values, something that I hold in my life, at least, to be very dear to me, and something that I strive to embody. And perhaps I have failed at compassion for myself, let's say. I've been judging myself or down on myself. Perhaps I would draw this root as broken off, or somehow, not thriving in the way that I would like. So this gives me a visual of like, okay, well, maybe I need to focus on nurturing this arm or this brain, this root. So this is one of the activities that we'll do to help us get connected to our rooted values. It's one of several activities that that we'll take on in this group. But I also want to say that this is a companion. This is not the focus of our time. And I'll get a little bit more into that. What the group is about and kind of what to expect in each session. So in terms of liberatory care, I'm curious, I'll ask you since you're here. What is liberatory care? When I say that, what does that mean to you? Or what does it bring up for you? And there's no right answers here.
I mean, there's a lot of things with that. I think about like empowerment, like something that empowers you and supports you rather than oppresses you. Are you asking for more specific things within that?
That's a great answer. Empowers, something that empowers and supports you and doesn't oppress you. Yeah, but I think that's key though, right? That the difference between self-care and the liberatory care is an acknowledgement of oppression, right? That oppression exists, which in a lot of spaces is hard to even, have be centered in the conversation. So oppression exists. We are either experiencing it or complicit in it in some way, and that liberation is an ideal, an experience perhaps, or direction that is unique to each of us. So each in our own positionalities and our own cultural backgrounds and experiences is going to have a dream for liberation, and that might look different from the next person. And so when we bring care into that, when we combine this dream or striving for liberation with a value of care, something happens for me, at least. And what happens for me is a series of images and feelings in my body around the types of care that I experience that are a part of my liberation. And it kind of expands the definition of care from just something that I do for myself in private to something that can happen in community, or that can happen in an active state. For example, when I feel really impassioned about a particular moment or experience of oppression, I may feel like I need to take action on that. I may feel like I need to connect with people around that. And for me, that is as much an act of care as is cooking a good meal or taking a bath. So from this perspective of a liberatory care, care is a holistic, care is holistic. And for example, if I were to put justice here as one of my core values, my rooted values, my most sacred values, I have to be able to define what that is for me. And if I'm talking about my personal life, I need some some way to ground that concept, that idea of justice in my life. So I might be compelled then to imagine times when I experienced injustice or I witnessed injustice, and the types of actions or activities that I would need to take to feel a sense of justice. So for me in my personal life, I would say there's like a particular situation where I felt injustice, and I still need to take action around that. So I might draw my justice route as, having a break in it because there was a moment of injustice that I need to nurture. I need nurturance around, or I need to take action around to embody that sense of justice in my life again. So part of what we will do in this group is understand what our rooted values are, our most sacred values are, define them, flesh them out a little bit, and get grounded in what they really look like and mean in our lives. So that they're not just conceptual ideas floating around in the ether, but we can really have an embodied sense of those values in our lives. And from there, once we have a bit of a map of where we're at, which values maybe need more nurturance or action taken, then we can start to craft our self and community care plan. So I decided not to call it a self-care plan because the self inherently is an individualistic construct. It's important to have a sense of self, and I'm not saying that being an individual is a bad thing. Rather, individualism, a sense that you are separate and acting alone, rugged individualism, that's sort of like the toxic expression of individualism, where we don't need anybody, and that's just not true. We're part of communities and relationships, and as per the Surgeon General's report, it's actually really important that we nurture that connection in our lives as a part of our holistic care. So one of the things we'll do in the self and community care plan is get a sense of the things that connect us to community, the activities, and the care rituals that help us to stay in a good balance with being nurtured in our own selves and nurtured in a sense of community. And that can include ways that we give, and examining ways that we give to community that maybe need to be rebalanced. Okay, I said a bunch of words. Are there any questions at this point? No? Okay. Well, you're always welcome to online to shoot me questions, write them down in an email, or this will be on YouTube. You can put it in the comments. Okay, so moving on to the benefits and the registration process for this group. So this group is a 6-week-long cohort. We meet once a week on Thursdays from 5:30 to 7 p.m. We will meet right here at Connect, but it's hybrid, so you can come online if that works for you. There will be 1 week where I'm out of town, so we'll all be online. Let's see, what else? The registration closes on January 2nd. That's next Tuesday. That's the date that registration closes for both groups. So if you're more interested in using your awareness of your rooted values to make decisions about how you're going to embody those values in your work, whether that's you're starting a business or you're running a business or an organization, a program, or you have an initiative, a project, anything like that, where you want to get some actual like strategies and action plans for taking action in those areas. The Rooted Vision Cultivator, which starts on January 3rd, so next Wednesday, that's probably the group for you. But either way, whichever group you choose, registration closes on Tuesday, the 2nd. What else? The other benefits you get is in this group, actually both groups have online courses that are bonuses, they're optional. They do provide some additional information and guided activities. If you want to deepen into an area that we've talked about in the group, I'll reference a lot of different things. And if you're like, ooh, that sounds really interesting, there's a whole like module where you can go deeper into that, but it's not required for the group. So for the Rooted Vision Cultivator, you get access to the Awakening Change Creators Field Guide. This is a 4-season course that was recorded over the course of the pandemic, and covers all sorts of different topics, but is grounded in the core coaching methodology. For the Liberatory Care Winter Cohort, there's a course, it's a 4-part course, but it's a lot more condensed and focused on empathic self-knowing. So tools for knowing yourself a little bit deeper, or your feelings, your needs, your values, and some somatic meditation for feeling those different concepts deeper in your body and your sensations. So the empathic self-knowing course is included in this group, as well as there are discounts on one-on-one sessions. So I'm a coach. I do one-on-one work and group work. So if you're interested in doing one-on-one work, I have several different containers for that work to happen, whether it be one-hour sessions or intensives. I have packages and whatnot. So there's when you join the group coaching, you get access to like, I think it's a lot. It's like 50% off. It's a pretty good discount. The hope being that you get the adequate time that you need to go deep into what is coming up for you, and being able to take action on that in your life. I just added another benefit, which I thought was, I was part of a group where they did this, and I'm like, this is so cool, and it makes so much sense. They did an ecstatic dance as like part of the integration process. So like getting into your body and moving through some of the content through your body. So that we actually host 2 ecstatic dances here over the course of the 6 weeks. One is on, I think, January 6th and February 3rd or something like that. They're on Saturday mornings. So registration for those is included in your registration for this group. And then before we kick off, or at some point in the first few weeks of the group, you get a 30-minute one-on-one with me to set your intentions for the 6 weeks, and to have like a more personalized check-in about where you're at, and anything else you want to share with me that you don't want to share with the group necessarily. I think that's the long and the short of it as far as benefits. And to register, you go to my website, awakeningcreatives.com. / Liberatory Care Cohort. It's under programs, and there's a few short questions that'll ask you to share about like why you're signing up. It's pretty basic, and there's a sliding scale, so you can choose a rate that works for you. And I think that the scale is, don't quote me on this, but it's somewhere, it's like, I think it's 220, 300, and 380, or maybe 400, but it's in that range. Meant to be like very accessible for folks. If you can register at the sponsor level. That helps us to support people who register at the sponsored level. And I think that's pretty much it. Any questions so far?
Can't really think of anything right now.
Okay. How does this sound? Does it sound like something you're interested in, or?
It is interesting. It's I definitely need I forget the phrase you use, the having more empathic sense of yourself, or being able to tune into that so that you're more aware of what your needs are. And it's
Yeah.
like, there's a process to identifying
Yeah.
how to live in alignment with your values if you can even identify your values.
Yes. Yeah, and one thing that we'll talk about in the group is how needs and values are sort of the same thing. And there's more to that, but yeah, in our culture, in sort of the dominant culture, there's kind of an assumption that, like, not that your needs don't matter, but that, like, you shouldn't have needs. Like, you don't want to be too needy. That's sort of the phrase that comes to mind. And so a lot of us have been brought up to kind of deny parts of ourselves, to deny our needs, ignore them, which at a deep level is like violence against ourselves when we dismiss the life that is asking to be fulfilled in us. So this group is really intended to get us in touch with our needs, to acknowledge them as important, to know what they feel like in our body when they're met and not met, so that then we can either meet those needs ourselves or make requests to have those needs met. Yeah, it's powerful.
I'm interested in where community comes into this, like how that connects with the work that one would be doing with themselves and identifying their values, and how they would identify how to get that from a community or what that might look like.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I love that question. And part of my answer is that it's not always very clear what those boundaries are, right? Because, for example, the compassion example, I might be having self-doubts or self-criticisms because of the culture that I'm embedded in, right? That's a natural reaction to not getting, throw some things at you, to not getting validation from a community. So perhaps what I find when I go deeper into this need for compassion, or this value of compassion, is cultivating a skill of self-empathy. Self-empathy is a tool, it's a skill that we can use in pursuit of compassion, which I would say is sort of a broader concept. But I also may need to make some requests of my community to have compassion for me, to hold compassionate space, to hold listening space. Or on the flip side, maybe I have not had compassion for someone in my community, and I need support from my community to hold a compassionate conversation, so that I can embody that value a little bit deeper. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
or should I give another example?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty large concept or area of interest for me. So
yeah, I mean, same. I went into community psychology for this reason, because it's so vast. At each one of our needs, let's say one of these is connection. Obviously I opened a wellness center called Connect. I have a strong need for connection in my life, connection to myself, to the universe, to other people. So the root system is really helpful for me because I can branch off and get clear about what do I mean by connection? Connection for what? So maybe my connection to the earth is really strong. That's like, I'm doing my hikes, I'm going outside and gardening. This is like thriving. But perhaps my connection to friendship or the connection I'm getting in friendship is broken. I would say this is actually probably a good representation for me. Mm-hmm. It's not, like completely gone. It's there. I have friends, but it has been stifled by a number of things, including parent. That's probably the biggest one, and a few other things. But this helps me visualize, like, oh, maybe I'm doing good on the earth stuff. Like that's not where I'm going to derive my connection from in this next season. I really need to focus on nurturing this branch. So that's just another example of how that plays out in community. Let's see. I think that may be it for our online folks. Please, if you haven't already, joined my newsletter at awakeningcreatives.com. You can also join the Connect Community Center for Wellbeing newsletter, where some of this information will go out. But my website's going to have the most information and detailed information and updates. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and let's connect. I look forward to it. Thanks, y'all.